Welcome to this overview of Live Producer, Grass Valley's revolutionary new approach to production switching. Now, this is built using exactly the same AMP microservices as our virtual K-frame and has many of the same features and capabilities, but as you can see, a completely different concept in user interfaces. So let's get straight into looking at how it works. You can see that straight away I have built-in flow monitors. So I have preview and program and very few buttons on the screen. Everything is represented to me visually through this concept of shots, scenes and layouts. So let's start with shots. So at the bottom row here you can see these are all the shots in the currently selected scene. And the first thing you'll notice is I have keyframes available on every one showing me what that shot is going to look like when I go to it. So it's like having a basic built-in multi-viewer showing me all my sources and how they are actually positioned. So if I've got complex multi-layer elements or even chroma keys like I do on shot 7 and 8, I actually get to see those as previews before I even take them. So as an operator I can simply click on a shot I want to go to, so I'll go to 3 next and take, and then I could preset 1, so ready 1 and take, and ready 2, and let's do a transition. So in that sense it's just like working a normal switcher, and I can either do it by clicking buttons on the screen, using keyboard shortcuts, or even taking advantage of one of our MAV modules to map functionality directly onto buttons, so I get a very traditional production switcher feel. But I can do a lot more than just simple shots. A shot can have multiple layers, so if I preset this shot you can see it's actually made up of a graphic background, a video, and then 2 other videos. One of them's an image store over the top of that. And when I transition to that, all of those individual elements can be set to wipe on, mix on or slide on depending on how I want them to be. So in that sense it's basically like, think of it like a production switcher with multiple keys. Except I can do transitions within these layers. So they're not as simple as basic keys, they actually have the ability to do transitions within the layers. So for example, I can now transition to the 2 pictures will mix through to 2 different pictures. And if I were to, for example, move the position of those layers between 2 shots, then when I transition between them, you can see it actually animates between those 2 positions. And at the same time I mixed the picture in the box in the background. And I don't have to keep doing these in order, I can jump around at random. So for example, if I wanted to reverse that move, I simply go back to the previous shot and it will automatically reverse the animation for me. So how easy are these things to set up? Well, it's as simple as just editing the shot. And it works a bit more like a video editor. So I can simply click on the pictures here, move them around, resize them, change their background, borders, transitions in and out, all of that, very, very simple. Basically it's just like working with a video editor, and then when I've made that change it's automatically saved. And if I need to change the order of my shots I can simply drag and drop them on the screen here to change the order. So I can operate this like a traditional switcher where I'm in sort of flip-flop mode, so I go between 2 shots backwards and forwards, or if I've got a sequence where I want to step through a whole sequence of shots in order, I can go in what we call select next mode and it will just work its way through a sequence. So that's a really easy way of doing very complex sort of opening sequences to shows, for example. So even at the shot level you can see there that's very powerful, and I can do up to 8 layers on any given shot. And then remember, because I can do transitions within those layers, as I transition to another shot, that could be a completely different 8 layers. So that's almost like having 16 keys available to me. And that's only shots. And then we move on to scenes. So scenes are a way of grouping together shots. So if I switch to scene 1 here, you'll see I've got a whole different set of shots. So I could use that to split a show up into sort of chronological chunks. Or if it's, say, a live sports event, I could break the event down into physical locations. So one scene could be the touchline, another scene could be the studio, another scene could be the wide shots, another scene could be the replay. But it's totally up to the user. But you could almost think about scenes as being like MEs as well, because when I go between a scene, I can do additional transitions. So I could go from one complex setup to another complex setup whilst running an image store wipe at the same time. So for example, on this scene here, I've got a sort of setup where I've got a 3 box, so I can just preset that shot and I will see it immediately appear on my preview window. And I've got a complex sequence on air as well, so I've got a multi-box sequence on air. When I transition between these two, you see I can get a fancy animation there to sort of transition between them. And again, I can now step through these shots and do animations between the different layers, or jump forwards and backwards to sort of go to different setups. And that's scenes. So then finally we have layouts. So layouts are almost like a downstream mixer. So you could use layouts to bring on like a graphic or a full screen, like you see I've got here bars and black, and I've also got a version where I've got like a bug or a CG. So if I select that layout, then effectively that will now put an additional, in this case I've got an additional couple of keys here. I've got a logo and then I've got another picture in picture. Or that could be a graphics strap or something like that. And then when I've finished with that, I could leave that on as long as I liked. I just go back to my program clean layout and then that will transition out in whatever effect I've set. But I can do even more complex things than that, because I've got another set of 8 layers, each independently controllable. I can do sort of complex squeeze backs and other effects at that layout layer. So for example, I have an L bar here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to squeeze back the entire production into this sort of L bar and roll 4 more clips. So I'm bringing in another 4 sources at the same time. So I can now still continue to do transitions inside the squeeze back box, just as if I was operating things normally, and you can see everything just carries on working in that squeeze back box. And then when I want to come back full screen again, I just click on program and then I can basically bring that back full screen. So this makes it very easy to do sort of your classic sort of news type shows. So let's just go to the presenter here again via a wipe. Then next we'll bring in an over-the-shoulder box, slide that from there. Now we're going to bring in a guest. So we've got a guest here. Let's bring them in a 3 box, for example. Or I could say start with that one, which is a 2 box. So go to that. And then I perhaps want to run some B-roll, so I can animate them into that position while that B-roll runs on the right-hand side of the screen. And then when I want to go back to the presenter full screen again, I can just take the presenter full screen and then go to the guest full screen, which is shot 5, preset the guest. And so that's ready 5 and take 5. So works just like a normal switcher in that sense, but you can see I can do some very, very powerful things within those shots and scenes. Finally, I have things like video clips, and I have built-in clip players here. So I've got a scene here where I've got a number of video clips set up, and if I just want to go and play, say, that Blizzard clip, I simply click on it. It will preview at me running, so I can make sure it's the right one, and then I can do my transition through to rolling that clip. And then it will queue up the next clip in the sequence, see it on preview, want to take it and take, and now it's going to roll that clip for me. And again, I've not had to think about assigning imports or which clip player I'm using. It's just basically programmed exactly the same way as everything else. If I edit the shot, see here I've got a list of video clips I've imported into my show. I just pick the one I want and then the system will roll it for me. And finally, audio. The system actually can handle audio as well. So for basic shows, this could be a sort of completely self-op operation. So for example, here I've got 2 shots on the screen. I can hear the audio from both of them. As I mix through, bring more shots on, the audio gets mixed together. And then I could go into the layers and individually control and animate the layers so that the audio fades up and down. And in addition to that, I have the option to specify additional audio layers that I want to break out onto a separate fader here. So I have what the equivalent of an audio only layer, so I can then ride, for example, the presenter microphones when I'm in a scene that the presenters are in, but then when I change scenes where I don't need their microphones, it will automatically fade them out. So that's a very, very quick overview of Live Producer. I think you'll agree it's an extremely powerful tool, but also extremely intuitive to use. And it leverages Grass Valley's long history and heritage in understanding what the needs of a live production are. So for example, we understand that, you know, sometimes things go wrong in a live show. And so even though you may have programmed that I want a box in the middle of the screen here, I still have the ability to come in and sort of say, no, I need to cancel that because, you know, it's not the right graphic or something like that. So we've got all these kind of last minute ability to override things if we need to. So I hope you found that interesting, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.